Sam's, baby?
Huh?
Wanna go to Sam's?
What are we gonna do?
We want to go to Costco return now.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go Costco. Then I show you the plan.
Okay.
You want to put in the was a manner fee returning the truck.
Oh yes, I remember. But there was always that chance because you had to pass this way anyway. Hopeful thinking, but that's okay. I understand.
I was like, oh my God. Then I was thinking, oh, no. I would not be able to make it.
No,
So,
I understand. No, the only reason why I asked because I wanted to, if you did come, I wanted to make sure I had a printed copy for you.
oh, okay. All right.
That way I didn't have to try to print, because my printer's been acting really weird. I got to troubleshoot it, but different story. Any testimonies, praise reports, by the ways?
Is Anson there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay. I didn't see you.
Earl's on also.
Yeah.
He's on mute.
Selena, is Selena there too?
No, Selena's not on.
Oh, okay.
And it's okay. Any questions for me? Any by the ways? Any, how can I create more? How can I?
Yes. So we are you said that I'm creating my house in so is it the same thing? It will not be the same thing, isn't it?
Clarify, please.
Okay, so now I'm creating my home in Beverly Hills. So giving love, that will it help me? How? I think it'll be different way.
Why?
Right?
Why do you think it would be different? Are you still using the 5 steps? Are you still using the 5 steps? Ask. Step 2, God's job. Step 3, you believe. Step 4, receive. Step 5, be a good asker.
Yeah. The asking process is there already. So to manifest it, because it'll be a different. Is it going to be the same or different? Because Beverly Hills is a prosperous place.
Don't see, that's where when you say that, that means you've already put a number and limitations on what you're desiring.
Oh.
Don't do that, because once you do that, it will never come to you. Does that kind of make sense?
Okay, yeah. So that's why
we're not saying not to desire it, but when you say it in that vibration, you don't believe what you're asking for. It doesn't sound convincing when you say it. It's kind of like, well, I kind of hope it does. You got to be for
no.
solid.
No. I don't feel that.
Okay.
I do not feel that I'm lacking. I feel
No. Here's what I mean. Not in terms of you lacking, in terms of when you say, is this going to be different in terms of creating the house I want, because of this house is in a certain area, and because it has this stature and this credibility and this value and this abundance and this prosperity that comes along with this name, is this process going to be different? No. Does that make sense? Don't look at it as being not lackful, but don't look at it as, oh wow, this place is more prosperous than where I am now. Treat your place more prosperous than the place you're going. In other words, you have Beverly Hills, you have Hollywood, you have everything that LA prosperity and abundance have right where you are in the now. You have to understand, when you do it in the now, then you can create that, because it doesn't look so big. It doesn't look, oh, I got to make more money, or I got to cut my budget, or I got to do these things. Does that make sense? So not that you ask it, not that you lack it. It's just you went, wow, this is a big prosperous pace. Now, what are you telling the universe about what you live in now? Not that you dishonor it or discredit it, but if you go, man, this place right here that I'm in now is great, right? You build up that momentum to greater because likeness attracts likeness, correct?
Mm.
Does that kind of make sense? Hopefully I'm not confusing you.
Yeah. I'm trying to, you know how with Palm Spring, I will give them, I'll give love to the neighborhood, you know. But in this case, I give love also to the neighborhood.
Good. What does your home look like? Ooh. What does your home look like, Melissa? Not your home, not the home you live in now. What does your home look like that you're trying to create now to move into your future?
It's a 2-car garage with a driveway.
Okay, keep going.
Um,
How many square foot?
how many square footage?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have to be in detail
I
or
want you.
not?
Yes, be detailed.
In detail, right?
Detailed.
So, like about 2,500 square feet
Okay.
home.
How many rooms?
Minimum 4 rooms.
Okay. 2-story, single story?
Single story.
Lot property size?
Huh?
Lot property size? Big
Lot
backyard?
size maybe like about 5,000 square feet.
Okay. Okay. What else? Loft,
Oh,
no loft, game room, workout room, swimming pool, jacuzzi.
Minimum two bathroom, dining room, modern kitchen with an island.
I see it now.
High ceiling, a lot a lot of windows.
What type of carpet? What type of flooring? What type of
The flooring will be tile, shining. The wall is off white. You know, beige, light beige, off white kind of thing. And
how many bathrooms?
I actually have a picture in my head.
How many bathrooms?
How many minimum 4 bedrooms.
Bathrooms.
Minimum 2 bathrooms.
All right. Cool. What about your neighbors? What do they look like? What does their life look like?
My neighbors will be the same. Will be the same, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how do you feel right now describing what you just described?
I feel good. I actually has already have that picture in my mind, and I also picture where I'm gonna place my altar table.
Good.
You know, and they also have already shown me how my altar table is gonna look like, and the location of the place.
Yes.
You know, in a room. It's not in the room. In a space, and the altar table is huge. It's long. Okay, like white color. It's strange. It's strange when I got that vision in my mind. Lily was telling me she was shopping. She was shopping for her altar table, and she showed me one, and she said, "I wish that it was white and gold." She said, and I said, "Oh, then I, you know, then it brought me to my a vision whereby mind is white.
Very good. Now, the reason why, and we know you thought of this, so the reason why we wanted you to replay it is because we want you to confirm what you're wanting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you speak it out loud, you have a tendency to believe it more when it's spoken out loud. When it's kind of in your mind, it gets jumbled with all the other thoughts. But when you speak it, it's a singular words. You get what I'm saying? You do that more when you speak it out loud. Not that you cannot think it that way. Don't get me wrong. But for you in this incident, speaking it out loud gives it more confirmation because you've already put thought into it. Now that you've spoken it, you put energy behind it. You put love behind it. Now you see your neighbors as loving neighbors and not ghetto neighbors whose weeds are way high and they got cars parked in the front yard and the fence is falling over and, you know, graffiti on the side of the wall. You see my point?
Yeah.
So when you're creating, create from that place that you just described in detail and then walk away. In other words, shift your mind to something else because you've already put the energy there. You've already put the focus there. Now go create something else. We're multi-dimensional, multitasking beings. But we can only do singular things in the moment. So once you put your thought into it, you've already researched it. Now go point at something else. Does that make sense? Yes, maybe so?
Yeah.
In other words, here's why we say this. When you put the energy into it and that focus into it, the prayer into it, the affirmation into it, we don't want you to keep pointing at it too long because you'll get into unbelief. People tend to point at it too long and all of a sudden now they don't really believe that it's coming because it ain't came yet. Now they begin to shout at the sea, where is it at? So put the energy out there. It's kind of like a bowling ball. You don't chase the bowling ball down the aisle to hit the pins, do you? Of course not. Let inertia take its course to get the strike or get to whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The ball comes back to you. Let that be kind of the same way where each time it's rolling, I go away, and then when it's not my turn, the next player comes in and I get the chance to refocus how I want to hold this ball. I know that's a horrible analogy, but that's the only thing I can come up with. Does that kind of make sense a little bit?
Yeah, okay.
Yes?
Yeah.
All right. Now, say it's on the way. Say it's on the way.
It's on the way.
It's on the way.
Do you believe that?
Yes, yes. I was thinking like maybe next year.
What? Next year? Okay, well, we only got a few months, so I'll buy that.
Yeah.
We'll give you till January 1st to have the new home.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yes.
But think about it. You could create this home very quickly and easily. You really could.
I can create what?
You could create this home that you described very quickly and easily.
Yeah.
Make sense? All right.
Yeah.
Any questions before we get into our lesson? Any other questions? Any by the ways? All right. The source of all illusions. This is kind of a long one, so I'm gonna kind of get right into it. And when we talk about the illusion, and you all don't fit this category, but this is information for you to go teach others, because you'll see other people who are still in the illusion. And what we mean by the illusion, meaning they're still separated from God, separated from you, separated from themselves. And when we say separated, meaning they've took on the idea that we're not one. They've taken on the idea that source energy creator is so far away that he's unreachable. He's unattainable. Does that kind of make sense? So a lot of people have this illusion, and because of this illusion, it hinders their creation. It hinders their manifestation. It hinders their enlightenment, which I found out today means your enlightened life. So they're not fulfilling the full path. So then when they do that, they take on grief. Now things slow down because of the illusion. So now the reason why you will know they're an illusion is because they're still, one, thinking separate, and then two, they're still in judgment. They'll judge things and judge people. You still know they're in illusion because of that judgment. Does that make sense? So you being the master teachers, when you hear people using those choice words, not understanding the magnitude of it, is to help them remember to wake up from the illusion or wake up from the dream, thinking that they're separated from God. Does that make sense? Or separated from you. And the reason why they're in your path is so you can plant the seed so they can wake up. Does that make sense? All right. So how many forms can illusions take? I'll answer it. Many forms. The illusion is, I'm in the illusion of poverty. I'm in the illusion of not good health. I'm in the illusion of bad relationship. I'm in the illusion of bad health. I mean, you get what I'm saying? These are forms of illusion that people have taken on for themselves and then have spoken it and then believed it and then became the embodiment of that spirit, mind, body concept. Does that make sense? So, how do you surrender the illusion? The quickest way, the quickest way to surrender the illusion is to surrender. And you always hear us say, be neutral in the events that you're in, because all events are neutral. So this is where the meditation comes into practice. This is where the breathing comes into practice. This is where all the practices come into place so that you can surrender and not be part of that illusion. And then you have clarity of what's going on around you. Now you're better focused. Now you're better manifestors. Now you're better seed planters. Does that make sense? Now you're surrender. Basically, when we say surrender, it's your will to God's will and God's will to your will. God, I hope y'all got that. I hope y'all got that. Your will to God's will and God's will to your will. Because you're what? One. And because you're one, now his will is your will and your will is his will. It only makes sense. It's the divine will. Now you are no longer separated from the illusion, and now that voice or intuition that comes in that gives you the great advice that you come to learn and trust over the years. Don't go down that dark alley. Don't turn left. Don't do this. You've learned to trust that voice, and that helps you also surrender the illusion of separation. And it's so important that you learn not to separate yourself from anything or anybody. This is where your power comes in. You need those people to help on your journey to expand your awareness and your consciousness, your Christ consciousness. Okay? Why are all illusions neutral? And this is one of the lessons that we taught probably earlier in the year, if not, probably early in the year, but all events are neutral. And the reason why we want you to get to all events are neutral is so you don't judge it. So you don't point at it too long. So you don't criticize it or condemn it or whatever. Matter of fact, we don't even want you to praise it in that moment. It sounds crazy, but we want you to really be neutral until that voice or that intuition, source energy, God comes in and gives you the answer to the question you've asked. Ask and it is given. It is very simple. Ask and it is given. So when you ask and you get in a place of neutrality, which we would call meditation. So once you're in that place of true meditation, now, once you come out of that meditation, or even while you're in that meditation, now the answers flow to you. And you have all experienced that in one form or another. You might not have got it in the same day. You might have got it a week later. You might have got it years later. And they went, wow, I hadn't thought of that 3 years. Hopefully it ain't been that long, but gee whiz. I've had people go, man, I've been asking this question for years, and now I just got the answer. What have you been asking? Gee whiz. If it took 3 years for you to get the answer, what I teach you is going to take you another 100 years. I'm just kidding. How does surrender create peace? Once you surrender your will to God's will and his will to your will, his will is divine peace. It's the peace that surpasses all understanding. In other words, it's the peace of compassion. It's the peace of forgiveness. It's the peace of not taking on the role of victim. It's that peace where I'm not lethargic, not because you did anything wrong, but I'm truly at peace, mind, body, and spirit. Does that make sense? And now once I'm at peace, I expand that peace to others who are agitated, because the opposite of peace is what? Exactly. Does that make sense? So as we jump forward a little bit, on page 256 on the third paragraph, illusion then, while the form of them may seem to be many, are really one. So all the illusions that people create are one illusion. And we'll kind of get more into detail as we explain that, but it's only one illusion. And the reason why we want this to happen is because this helps people heal spirit, mind, body. Okay, it helps them awaken from the illusion and heal past, you would call it on this planet karma. They would heal those past guilty feelings and emotions that they've carried over the years from each incarnation. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. Healing occurs when in the depth of the mind, the decision is made to surrender and to give up an insane idea that oneself could probably exist apart from the mind of God. Surrender means to settle into the position of the servant, the conduit through the mind of Christ or the mind of God. The love of God can be expressed. And what we mean by that is when you're in line at the grocery store, I'm just kind of giving you an example, and you're minding your own business, and I think I've shared this analogy before, and all of a sudden the person behind you or the person in front of you begins to dump all their personal feelings on you, and you don't know this person. And you're thinking to yourself in that short moment in line while you're trying to check out to get home or to your destination, why is this stranger telling me all their personal information? I really don't care at this moment, but then something switches and peace comes in and you surrender to this stranger because you feel their pain or you feel what they're going through. And now when you hear whatever information they're giving you, you're able to tap into that higher knowledge or your God self and give them that answer in that short amount of time. And then they check out, you check out, and they part ways and they're happy. And you're going, okay, that was kind of a strange encounter. But then you kind of get back in the balance and going about your business. That has happened many times in different forms for you all. Does that make sense? So this is what we mean to settle into the position of a servant, because now you're serving that person in unconditional love. You didn't judge them because they're telling you all this stuff because they trust you to give you that information without feeling condemned. And they needed to get that release off of them and give it to someone, and they knew you were strong enough to receive it and not take it on as yourself. You just kind of say, hey, okay, I just trying to put this aside because it doesn't serve me or you, and I'm glad you told me, and wow, here's a great friendship. Even though I might not ever see you a day again in my life, you're family, my brother or my sister. Yay! And they go away. Make sense? But this is to help them heal, okay? We said all to say that. The mind that exists in the perfect surrender sees absolutely no purpose to any moment of the experience save this. The mind in perfect surrender looks out upon the world that has been healed from its own misperception that the world had power over it. And we teach this, and we don't mean any disrespect to any religion, but a lot of people that I know that are in Christianity will say a prayer, and their prayer will entitle the world being wicked evil, sick, not good, everything in the negative. And then I go, well, what good stuff is there? Why are you just pointing to those things? Is the mountain ugly? Is the mountain sinful? Is the mountain, well, no, Pastor, you're being this. And you, okay, well, I'm trying to get you to shift your mind to surrender to something else other than that. Because then when I ask them, does this make you feel good? What do you think their response is? No. But yet they want to continue to tell that story over and over and over because, like I said in the beginning, you are made to believe the words that you speak. So they spoke those words and begin to believe those words. Okay? It sees that no time has experienced anything but its own app picturing. This is why all events are neutral. It is the mind that interprets an event, draws a conclusion, and then bases behavior. Is that so true? We see people and even ourselves go through that process where we will create an event and then draw a conclusion and then act upon that behavior. I'm going to be mad at this person. I'm going to be mad at myself. I'm going to be mad at the world, whatever the case might be. But it was the ideology that they took on to take on that concept. And when they do that, notice if you've ever done it for yourself, notice how your body felt when you did it. You probably felt tension or some type of discomfort within the body. The mind, body, whatever, was not in balance. Make sense? The mind that is healed and rests in surrender looks out upon an innocent world that has been touched. I missed a C there. Work with me, you pastors slow. Touched by its blessing of forgiveness. That forgiveness is simply a step in which the mind recognizes the world it had thought was there was nothing more than its own mental creation. It smiles and laughs and sees that the world has held no power. And within the kingdom of the mind, the one place that is given unto you, assume responsibility for you as dominion. This is why you always hear me say, every place that the sole of your foot walks upon, you have dominion. And we don't mean that in a macho, egotistical way. What we mean that is you have the power of unconditional love to change that place for abundance and prosperity. More love, more compassion, more. If you want to make the world a better place, this is how you do it. It's not done through your government. The government was never meant to take care of God's people. Never. Okay? Where am I? And within the kingdom, on page 257, the mind that has been healed of illusion has been healed of all illusions. And this is where the enlightenment of life comes into place, where now you're not in the trap of the misperception of the world being a bad place. And we're not going to point at all these things because they're temporary. Are these events that might be chaotic now going to be happening in 10 years? God forbid, I hope not. But in reality, no. No world war has ever went 10 years. You get what I'm saying? Nothing has went that long. It always has dissipated or dissolved itself along the way. So if all events are neutral, then this event is temporary. Don't put a lot of energy in it, put a lot of blessing in it. I bless the situation because tomorrow's going to be a better day. The government's going to be, whatever the case might be that you send that love to. That's how you plant that seed and change that environment and change that culture. Again, you can't change people and you can't change the world, but we're great influencers. So this is how we influence, by using these actions. And while time and space seem to last, the last outpicturing of a tiny made idea called the physical body can be given over to something else, can be transformed into a simple communication device that no longer communicates separation and judgment, but rather forgiveness and innocence. And this is where we want to shift or influence people to start thinking is terms of innocent forgiveness. Innocent forgiveness. In other words, if it's innocent, I can't judge it because it's what? Innocent. If I was a judge and you were standing before me and they relayed all the facts before me and the jury had theirs and my final conclusion was you're innocent. What does that do to you? You're clean. You're I don't know the legal terms for it, but you're basically free. Make sense? So if you take on the mindset of innocent as a baby, wow, there you go. Innocent as a baby or innocent as a child, and then add forgiveness to it, that's what people's mindset should be towards. Now they won't judge. Now they won't condemn. Now they won't be unreasonable. Okay? Not that we want them to do what we want to do, but we want to have a relationship with them. And it's okay if we're not, because they have their own family that they have a relationship with. But we plant the seed that they can take that seed into that web or that family so that family can get what? Healed. Make sense? So we don't necessarily have to be in the mix of it. We can send that one seed in the midst of it and he'd be the farmer, not even realizing he's the farmer. And then somebody else will come along and water it, and then it will increase. And then all of a sudden now someone in that group will change their behavior. And you've all seen people within your circles, whether they be big or small, you've seen them change their behavior over the years if you've known them for a period of time, right? This is the same way where you can influence them in a positive way to change the outcome of their lives. It becomes nothing. It picks up and used only in those ways that can speak, gesture, move, act, and make something in the world that touches the world with a blessing of the good, the holy, and beautiful. Forgive my mistakes. It's me, Pastor. Just roll with it. Hard to put this in words when you're doing what I do. Because this is simply the truth, it must mean that you perceive justification, and anything less than peace, it must mean that you have already decided in the deeper part of your mind to maintain this root core of misperception. And this is where, even in simple conversation, when you hear people say, oh, Pastor, I can't do this, or this is impossible, or I don't make enough money, or my boss hates me, or I will never get a raise, or I'll never get a promotion, or I'll never get that $11.5 million that he's talking about. That's impossible. I have to work 5. You see all that doubt and belief? When people get into that mindset, they create that world, and now it's hard for anything to come in because they build up that belief system, okay? And we see it all the time. So when you hear those type of words, can't, won't, unbelief, doubt, lack, fear, when you hear those words, you know you're dealing with a hurt family member. He might not be your blood, but that's your brother or sister, and they're hurting. And they're there for you to help assist them in getting them healed. Does that make sense? You might be the spoon, somebody else might be the cough drop. Bad analogy, but that's the only thing I came up with. That is, you're still attempting to perceive yourself as having accomplished the impossible, to have separated yourself from the mind of God. The mind that is surrendered looks out upon all things and quietly says within itself, there has only been God. I am created of that. The source of my being, the source of my reality, rest and surrender into that and that alone. And that will probably be the affirmation for the week, because we want you to get in that mind frame of, this is why we started where me and my Father are one. We are one. I am not separated from anything. This kind of takes you to that next level where you already knew it. It's just the confirmation within yourselves. That makes sense? 258, page 258. The mind that is surrendered yet walks in your world as long as the body lasts, is often completely unrecognized by others around it. For others see a body and therefore assume that there's an individual, an ego, a separate being within it as that body. When the mind is surrendered, you could say that body walks as an empty shell and is merely waiting to be informed by the love of God. When the love of God does not inform you or ask you to move and take action, then simply rest and do nothing. This is where we mean by being in a place of neutrality. So when you meditate, and what we mean by meditating, whether that be pulling your bow, whether that be writing, whether that be planting, gardening, sitting still and actually breathing, whatever that meditation is that's going to take your mind off of resistant thinking and shift your mind into that you're desiring, then this is the mind that surrenders. Because then you'll move. When you hear that voice, you will take action. Does that make sense? In other words, when your intuition, has anyone, let's see, what is a good example? You ever had the unction to do something and you just couldn't get off of that unction to do it? Anson, here's a great one. Here's what we mean by that. You desire getting back into bowling, right? So when intuition kicked in, you knew where to look to find that person with that particular bow. Then you took action to reach out to that person. And then there was a connection. That's the intuition. That's the revelation. That's when you were sitting still and then it came in, wow, let me go to this site. Let me Google this. Let me search this. Let me do this. Those are action forms before the physical bow was in hand. Does that make sense? This is what we mean by that. So when you simply rest and did nothing, it came to you, and then you were inspired to go turn the computer on, go do the search string, then forget about whatever else, forget about time, forget about eating, forget about work. You forgot about everything, and you were so enveloped in that search and looking at all the different possibilities. And then something stuck out, that's the one. Out of all the researches and all the searches, that one was the one. And then your intuition, that voice says, reach out to them, make contact. And then you went, without question, I'm going to reach out because why? They posted it. They were resting in neutrality, but they just didn't know it. Make sense? This is why the final state of awakening is incomprehensible in the language of your world, since your languages are based on the very thought of separation itself. This is why when we speak of peace, we speak of that peace which is beyond all understanding. For the peace that you can understand in the language of your world is conditional peace. The kind you create when toe-oriented nations, leaders sit down in suits and ties and forget the death counts and destroyed villages, and they sign some document with a pen. They put on a front and smile for the pictures, and then they assume and teach everybody else to assume that now there is peace. Then each goes back and secretly continue to build weapons of defense against the attack sure to come from the one still perceived as an enemy. We all seen that in our government. Here's a peace treaty. Stop building bombs, but then they're still building bombs secretly. We're flying planes over to see if they're still building bombs. And then this is the game that's played. We do it with North Korea. We do it with the Middle East. We do it with everyone that we perceive in America as an enemy or as a threat. Does that make sense? And thus, that's the game that is played. Or I should say, that is the illusion. And once you get out of the illusion, now there's no separation. Now you begin to bless those suits and ties. Now you begin to send them unconditional love to influence them to make better decisions on a global level because they have that influence on the global level. And you go, well, how am I, who is not on that platform, influence somebody who, quote unquote, might be the president or the governor or the ambassador or the prince or the king or the whatever, makes no difference. He don't know what you know. And once you understand that, now you can influence love toward him. Just like when Anson influenced the man on the plane. He was grumpy, but then after a while, slowly but surely, he sent vibration of love, compassion, peace. I want this person to have peace because they're agitated. I don't want them to be agitated because I know what it feels like to be agitated and it doesn't feel good. And this is a very long flight to be agitated on. And that energy is dominating the plane, and I don't like that energy. I can keep going, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. That makes sense? Peace cannot be bargained for. It is not the result of compromise. Peace comes only then any mind surrenders unconditionally the dream of the dreamer itself. So there is only God and God's creation. When we have shared with you before that the creation is one, the Christ mind, and that mind is not the body. It is not a particular form and certainly does not belong to any personal entity. My brother Yeshua was never the Christ, as though you are not. Like you, he was a temporary modification of eternal energy and an outpicturing of thought, mental thought, hell mind, which is the lender of. Buddha was the same way. All the ascended masters are this that we're describing, which you are the same. Does that make sense? Okay. That way nobody gets overwhelmed. Only that mind was present, and yet it could not be touched through the body. That is why Yeshua, my brother's crucifixion, had no effect on him whatsoever. It merely sped up the process whereby the body would dissolve as an idea. And that's where the shift of consciousness goes, where you can literally take the body into the other dimensions. And that's another total conversation, another lesson. But it's what you would call your deja vus. That would be similar to your deja vu. Make sense? Questions, comments, concerns? Did I lose anybody? Everybody's good? Yes, no, maybe so? All right. We love you all. Have a blessed week. We'll see you Sunday. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good one.